Hey, we need a game board, and this lesson I'll show you how to set that up. So last time we created the start game and we've got a placeholder for setup bricks. So let's create a function that will set up the bricks. And we'll pass in a value, so this can be completely dynamic, and we can adjust how many bricks we set up. So right now we want to set up 30 bricks, and we're going to run through and create the function in order to handle that. So that was called setup bricks, and it's taking in a parameter, so that's a number. So this is the number of bricks that we want to set up. So the first thing that we need to do is determine where our starting position is. So setting up a row, and we can use this to get our dimensions. So within the row position, we need an X, and we also need a Y. In order to determine our X position, we can use that container dim, so the one that we've got the dimensions of the container. So remember, we had the height, the width, so we had all that within that object. When we used the method get bounding client rectangle, it returned the container dimensions in an object, and now we can use that within our code. So we can make some calculations, making it more dynamic and flexible. So let's first we'll create and we'll set up our container dim width. So this one has a width property, and we're gonna get the remainder. So we want to set up the width. Maybe we want the bricks to be 100 pixels each. So we want to determine how many we can put across and what the remainder of that is. And if we take that value and divide it by 2, that will give us the ability to pick how much space we need on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, how much is going to be left over. And when we divide it by 2, that means left and right, we can cover off both those sides. And for Y, this is going to be relatively easy because this is going to be just starting position for Y. So this gives us an object that we can work with, and now we can update and we can adjust that object. So setting up the row, and I'm going to comment out the request animation frame because we don't quite need that yet. So when I hit start game, what we're getting here is we're getting the X and the Y. So it's saying that the bricks should start at position number 24, Y 5, and that sounds about right. So that means that we're starting out and we're going to be able to make so many bricks that are going to be 100 width across, and then we're going to run out of space, so we've got about 48 pixels left, and that's been divided by 2 so that we can center that. And this will make a lot more sense once you see it being displayed on the page. So let's create a for loop. So taking X and looping while X is less than the value of number, we're incrementing X by 1. So we'll create our basic loop. And within this loop, we're going to take the value of row X, and we're checking to see if it's wider than the con dim width. So if it's past the width, then we need to subtract 100 in order to account for one last brick. So to make sure that if it's past the mark, we're minus 100, so that would be, we can't put a full brick in. That's why we're subtracting the 100 there. So if it's past the edge, then we want to increment and we want to change the row Y, increment the row Y value. And we're not going to have to do that obviously on the first iteration, but we might have to do it on the following iterations. I'm going to place this within the row here so we can see all of the different positions where we're positioning them. And then next we're going to build the bricks, and I'll show you how to do that. So this is just determining where we're positioning these bricks as we want to build out a grid of these. So we're taking Y and we're adding 50 to Y. So that will move it row down. And then we're also taking our row X position and we're resetting it to the default starting position, which we already had up here. So we can actually take that position and copy that code. And this will set our row X position. And then we just need to make the brick position, and row X is going to be nice and easy because this is always going to increment by 100. So let's see how this works out. So we hit start game and we build out all of the bricks. So the first one is going to be in position 2450, then 12450, then 224, 324, 424, and then we don't have space for another one. It starts back at 124, but notice that Y has increased to 100, so it's moved to the next row of Y. So we're ready to actually create the bricks, and I'll show you to do that in the upcoming lesson. So we'll create a function in order to do that. So create brick. Or it should be create brick. So it's only going to create the one brick, and it's going to take the row position, so the X and Y, so it's going to know where to set the top and left style properties for that particular element. So that's coming up in the next lesson. We're going to create the bricks. So for now, just make sure that you do set up a function that can set the default coordinates of where you want to position these elements. And you're going to also notice as well that this is going to adjust. So depending on what our width is, and we did want to make it dynamic. So you see here, we're able to get to brick to starting at 28, and it looks like we're able to get about 12 bricks across, and then we run out of space and we move on to the next line. So fully dynamic depending on what the size of the page is and what the size of our container is.